If you love stories of overcoming revenge and twists and turns that life throws at you, then this channel is for you. Here, each story will keep you hooked from beginning to end. So subscribe, activate the bell, leave your like, and come with me. Because today's story is simply unmissable. The sweet scent of gardenias hung in the humid air of the veranda, the same scent that always announced Raphael's arrival. For Aurora, that perfume was the silent promise of a future together, of plans, whispered in her ear under the soft moonlight. Her fingers slid across the cold surface of the wine glass, a liquid ruby that reflected the anxiety dancing in her brown eyes. Each tick-tock of the old clock in the living room echoed like a countdown to the moment she longed for, the proposal, the ring, the yes that would seal a love that seemed to have been written in the stars. The gentle breeze stirred the linen curtains, bringing with it the distant murmur of the city, oblivious to the whirlwind of emotions stirring in Aurora's heart. She recalled their first meeting, his shy smile, the conversations that lasted all night, the overwhelming certainty of having found her soulmate. The doorbell finally rang, a sound that made Aurora's heart leap in her chest. A radiant smile lit up her face as she hurried towards the door. Upon opening it, Raphael's figure stood there, but his expression was somber, distant, a chilling premonition that contrasted with the warmth of his hesitant touch as he handed her a small bouquet of pale roses. The silence that settled between them was dense, laden with unspoken words, with an invisible weight that crushed the lightness of their previous encounters. Aurora felt a knot form in her throat, the joy of moments ago fading like sand through her fingers. There was something different about Raphael, a coldness in his eyes that she had never witnessed, an abyss that was opening between their worlds, which had until then been so connected. Raphael's words came like shards of glass, cutting through the silence with unexpected cruelty. Each phrase was a blow, demolishing the walls of the castle of dreams that Aurora had built with such care. He spoke of doubts, of paths that diverged, of a future that, after all, did not include them together. The incredulity etched on Aurora's face was a mirror of the piercing pain that ran through her. How could it be? How could that love, which seemed unshakable, crumble into dust before her eyes? Tears welled up uncontrollably, blurring the image of Raphael, who seemed increasingly distant, enveloped in an aura of coldness and indifference. The bouquet of roses slipped from her hands, the pale petals scattering across the floor like fragments of her broken heart. The sound of the door closing behind Raphael echoed in Aurora's apartment like the final blow. The deafening silence that followed was filled only by her convulsive sobs. She felt empty, hollow, as if an essential part of her had been torn away. The memories of happy moments now haunted her, each smile, each touch, each promise turning into a painful stab. That future she had idealized, so vivid in her mind, collapsed like a house of cards, leaving behind only rubble of disillusionment. The night dragged on slowly and cruelly, marked by silent tears and the piercing pain that seemed to have no end. The days that followed were a blur of suffering. Aurora could barely get out of bed, her vital energy drained by the pain of rejection. The world around her seemed to have lost its color, its joy, its meaning. Her friends tried to comfort her, but their words seemed futile in the face of the magnitude of her loss. That love was not just a romance, it was the foundation upon which she had built her identity, her plans, her happiness, and now that foundation had disintegrated, leaving her adrift in a sea of uncertainty and despair. The image of Raphael, once a beacon of hope, was now a painful specter that haunted her. Every thought, little by little, anger began to replace the pain. A dull fury grew inside Aurora, fueled by injustice, by the betrayal of the trust she had placed in him. How could he destroy something that seemed so true, so special? This anger, paradoxically, began to give her a tenuous strength, a spark of energy in the midst of the darkness. She refused to be defined by that disappointment, to wallow in self-pity. There was a silent voice within her, a remnant of her former strength that whispered about the need to move on, to rebuild her life, even if the foundations were shaken. The first step was painful, like moving a body paralyzed for years. Aurora forced herself to get out of bed, to open the curtains, to let the light flood the dark room. Small acts of self-care became battles won: a warm bath, a light meal, a short walk around the block. Each small victory was a sign that life, however difficult it seemed, still pulsed within her. She began to revisit old hobbies, to leaf through forgotten books, to listen to music that once brought joy. And amidst these simple activities, a vague sense of possibility began to emerge. The support of her friends became a beacon in the fog of her pain. They encouraged her, listened to her without judgment, reminded her of her strength and her worth. Aurora realized that she was not alone, that there were genuine bonds of affection that sustained her. Conversations with them helped her process the pain, find new perspectives, and see beyond Raphael's figure. Slowly, the idealized image she had of him began to fade, revealing the imperfections that she, in love, had ignored. Aurora rediscovered dormant passions. Painting, which had been set aside because of the relationship, became again a release valve, a way to express the turbulent emotions that still stirred within her. The vibrant colors that emerged on her canvases were a contrast to the grayness of her recent days, a harbinger of a new beginning. She enrolled in a photography course, exploring the city with a renewed gaze, capturing fleeting moments of beauty that had previously gone unnoticed. Each click of the camera was a step towards her own healing, a way to refocus her vision beyond the pain. Time, relentless in its passage, began to heal Aurora's wounds. Memories of Raphael still surfaced, but less frequently and with less intensity. The sharp pain gave way to a melancholic longing, a gradual acceptance that chapter of her life had closed. She learned to value her own company, to find pleasure in her independence, to build a happiness that did not depend on the presence of another person. Loneliness, which was once a burden, began to transform into a space of self-knowledge and freedom. Aurora dedicated herself to her projects with renewed vigor. Her career flourished, driven by her determination and the new perspective that the painful experience had provided. She learned to trust herself, to recognize her own abilities, to not be afraid to follow her own dreams. Professional success became a source of self-esteem and fulfillment, a testament to her resilience and her ability to transform pain into a driving force. In a chance encounter months later, Aurora ran into Raphael again. That moment, which would have once been filled with anguish and resentment, was now just a brief instant in the flow of her new life. She greeted him with surprising serenity, without any trace of the pain he had caused her. She realized that she had forgiven him, not for him, but for herself, to be able to move forward without the weight of the past. The sparkle in her eyes was no longer of sadness, but of a newfound inner strength. The Aurora who said goodbye to Raphael in that brief encounter was a transformed woman. The heartbreak, although painful, had been the catalyst for a profound process of self-discovery. She had learned to love herself unconditionally, to prioritize her own needs, to build a rich and meaningful life on her own. The scars of pain became marks of her resilience, reminders of her ability to overcome challenges and emerge stronger than before. New horizons opened up for Aurora. She allowed herself to meet new people, without the urgency of finding a replacement for the lost love, but with the lightness of someone who feels complete in their own skin. past experiences made her more selective, more aware of what she truly sought in a relationship. She knew she deserved genuine, reciprocal love that valued her for who she was in her entirety. In the end, Aurora not only overcame the heartbreak, but blossomed from it. The pain transformed her into a stronger, more independent, more confident, and happier woman. She found true happiness within herself, an inexhaustible source that did not depend on another person. Her journey was proof that, even in the greatest storms, it is possible to find the light, rebuild the pieces, and bounce back, more radiant than ever. Self-love became her greatest and most lasting romance.